Listen up, folks. Speaking of dictatorial, authoritarian nations influencing us through the medium through which the West is most susceptible, Blidio blames. Blizzard recently kowtowed to China in a particularly disgusting way. Here, check it. I don't know how many of you have already seen this, but Blizzard suspends Hearthstone player for Hong Kong support, pulls prize money. So, for a gist, there is a Hong Kong Hearthstone player, right? They won their tournament. You know Hearthstone, the Blizzard game? It's like a card game for children. You know how it is. Anyhow, here, we can watch it right here. This is what took place.
你就讲完那8个字，然后导播我们就结束，我们就什么也都不要聊了。然后你随时可以开始，头先低下来。
光复香港时代革命。
导播可以切回来。
好，导播谢谢。
谢谢，好，可以了。
So basically what happened, to those of you who don't speak fucking Chinese, I do. That's why I'm able to effortlessly determine what is being said here. To those of you who are unaware, he, the winner, was from Hong Kong, or supported Hong Kong, I forget which. He, after winning, dressed up like a protester. So, you know, with the gas masks and like the goggles and stuff to protect against tear gas. And he said something along the lines of, liberate Hong Kong, revolution of our age. Or something like that. And the moment he said it, the casters, who are Chinese, because this is an Asian, this is like the Asia Pacific Grandmasters tournament. So it's hosted within and hosted by, it's a Blizzard game, but it's just hosted in the Asian area. You know, any of you who have played like competitive online video games know that there are different regions and games play out in those regions. And sometimes there are inter-regional tournaments that you fly people out for. Anyway, he said, liberate Hong Kong, revolution of our age. And the two casters, who are wise to China, the moment he said that, ducked their heads. You saw that in the video. They ducked, you know why? Because they knew that when this got screen capped, they did not want to be shown their faces on the same frame as somebody who was supporting Hong Kong. Imagine a political environment where somebody is on the same screen as you, expressing a political opinion which is unorthodox, and you have to turn your face to avoid being seen in the same screen as them. Anyhow, Blizzard didn't even wait for China to crack down on this. Blizzard suspended the Hearthstone player who won for 1 year and took away his earnings, his winnings. He took it away. He earned the money, took it away. And then fired the two casters, who had no idea what he was going to say. Just for being there, casters were sacked. And this was all Blizzard, an American company. Now Blizzard makes a ton of money from China. Overwatch, Hearthstone, these games make bank in China, and it's one of the reasons why their big Diablo announcement, that infamous Diablo announcement, what, you guys don't have phones? Was like a trashy, like mobile, like shit fucking mobile game, you know? Where you just Diablo, click to, you know, like like that thing, you know? It's just Diablo 3, but on a phone, and it'll probably have microtransactions. It's because that shit sells in China. And Blizzard is so desperate to keep that Chinese market, so desperate to avoid incurring like ill favor from China, that they preemptively sacked those two casters just for being in not even in the same room, just for being visible on the stream in the same screen, and suspended the player. Extraordinary. Can you think of how terrifying that is? That's like legit, like horrifying. You can't even express a political opinion, you'll get banned. Everyone around you will get banned. This is literally like how totalitarian, this is like Stalinists or like North Korea tier, like political, you know, it's like the 3 generations rule. Like if you dishonor the government, like you get shot, and dishonor upon your child and your grandchild, and only after that do things go fine again. It's like, yeah, like, and this, by the way, this is capitalism, by the way. This is businesses who make most of their money from an authoritarian regime, censoring people who work with them and desperately like bending over to lick the boot of the Chinese government, because they don't want to lose a potential market. And it shows you how willing corporations are to bend the knee to authoritarians if it means they can make a little more money. It's funny to me because right now the prevailing thought here in America is support the Hong Kong protests, fuck China. And good, broken clock's right twice a day, right? But the economic system we all live under disagrees. And the extreme irony is that there are 2 groups of people in America who support China over the Hong Kong protesters: tankies and big business. Just a strange coincidence, that one. Everyone here in America understands the Hong Kong protests for their faults, people fighting for democracy against an authoritarian regime. Big corporations know, however, that the better they cater to the Chinese market, the less disfavor they incur from that authoritarian regime, the more money they'll be able to make off of it. Very strange thing for them to do from a People's Communist Republic. Anyhow, a fun little irony there, but the real problem is, of course, the fact that our corporations can do this. This is, by the way, it's not just them. Riot Games did this. Their casters have also like been shutting up and silencing players from Hong Kong, who have been expressing those sentiment because League of Legends makes a lot of money from the Chinese, and the NBA did a lot of that stuff too recently. I know that was a big controversy. The NBA shut up people who were taking pro Hong Kong. It's very strange. Very strange that. Anyway, yeah, League is owned by a Chinese company. Yeah, that's true, but, you know, Blizzard is an American company, and they're kowtowing too. It doesn't really have to do with the nationality of the company. What it has to do with is how much money you make from that company. That's really it at the end of the day. And capitalism it mandates the profit motive. You have to make as much money for your shareholders as you can. You're legally obligated to. It's not a choice. You can't, as a CEO, you can't put your heel in the ground and say, no, I will not censor these Hong Kong protesters. Not to appeal to you, China. Because if doing that you make less money, you're literally breaking the law. You have a fiduciary responsibility to your stockholders. Which means, and as a natural, sort of consequence of this, which means that corporations are utterly divorced from moral consideration. There is no need whatsoever for them to adhere themselves to any moral or ethical concerns as long as they're working within the bounds of the law, and even then only if they're going to get caught if they don't work within the bounds of the law. And what this means invariably is that a system which works best, hypothetically, let's just buy the capitalist line here, through competition, through open transparency, through maneuvering systems which compete to provide the best service to the player at the least cost to the company, are instead made subservient to authoritarian regimes, where making money has less to do with making a good product and more to do with making sure you don't incur the ill wrath of the People's Republic of China. And that, by the way, has been the case for a really long time. None of this is new. This is by no means the first time corporations have gone out of their way to appease dictatorships. You look up the history of South America. I know that sounds vague, but if I specify any one thing, then I feel as though I'm leaving out the other 99. It's like this just happens all the time. And it's one of the reasons why capitalism is incompatible with democracy. It's not just because, like, oh, capitalism, you know, oh, the wage slavery, oh, it leaves people stupid, oh, the businesses co-op with the government. All those things are true, don't get me wrong, and they're important. But another big, big fucking reason is that capitalism works better without democracy. It functions better without it. There's no meaningful democracy in China, and look at how they're exploding. They're a capitalist country. They're booming. Capitalism just functions better because it turns out when you combine the general productivity and free market influence of capitalism with the implicit coercive force of an oppressive regime in a state, you have essentially an irresistible market force, something which is at once efficient, markets, and overwhelming. It can't be ignored. And that's the union of the two. It just works better without democracy. That's why corporations keep fighting against democracy all the time, constantly, in every way, shape, and form possible. They hate it. They hate democracy. They'll do everything in their power to make sure the average citizen is stupid and underinformed, to make sure that the average citizen is as distanced from the interests of the politicians that are meant to represent them as possible. That's what they lobby for. That's all they lobby for. Because they don't get their power through democracy. They get it through capital. And that's not something you and I have access to. I mean, I've got a little money. Maybe you have a little money. Or maybe you even have a lot of money. But you're not a billionaire. You don't own a transnational corporation. I assume. Maybe you do. Welcome. Consider sponsoring me. It's a problem. That's it. And if you're interested in things like freedom and free expression, then you should recognize the symptom here is capitalism. So, yeah. Oh, and again, Tanky's blown the fuck out. Again, two groups of people who are supporting fucking PRC over China. Two groups of people. Two groups. You have big business and tankies. Ooh, that's got a sting right there. Ah, damn. Right here in the heart. I am the real leftist. I understand that critical support for the People's Republic of China is the best way to oppose American imperialism. Oh, right. All the big transnational corporations, aka how American imperialism manifests in the 21st century, are supporting China too. Okay, gonna pretend I didn't see that. Oh, man.